Greetings, attendees of the first ever Philosophy and Economics Conference in Vienna. My name is Chak from the University of Hamburg. I'm here to present to you my research into prisoner's dilemma today. I subtitled my research Exchange and Cooperation. For the modification of the prisoner's dilemma that I present in this research engages the vital concepts of exchange and cooperation in economic study. I show in my research that if individuals of the prisoner's dilemma were allowed to transfer a share of the payoffs to the other conditional on the other's choice to cooperate, then there is a range of relative values for individual payoffs such that the Pareto optimal outcome of mutual cooperation coincides with the natural equilibrium outcome of the game, despite the initial configuration of payoffs triggering the prisoner's dilemma. What is the prisoner's dilemma? To conceive of the choice problem faced by the prisoners, we look at the infamous tale of two individuals apprehended by law for being criminals, and while awaiting trial, each is given the opportunity to betray the other and by that reduce his individual sentence. And however, if the other betrays him, then he receives a longer sentence, whereas if he betrays the other, his sentence is reduced. And this choice situation demonstrates that although the mutually preferable outcome is individuals remain silent and not betray the other, each is individually better off by choosing to defect and betray the other individual. And as such, the demands of individual rationality lead at times to suboptimal outcomes collectively, economically, by the Pareto optimal principle. Studying the prisoner's dilemma is done within a framework of rational choice theory, and the three essential concepts relied on by scholars to comprehend the choice problem is by representing firstly the game as a normal form, such that, as it can be seen in my example here, the individually rational outcome for both individuals to betray the other and each receives 5 years in prison, whereas if both remain silent, they only receive 2 each. However, if one betrays the other, the one who betrays the other is set free, whereas the one who is betrayed receives a sentence of 8 years. To understand the contradiction here, it is important to recognize what the natural equilibrium is, which simply implies that each individual in a choice situation plays his best response to the other strategies that are played by the other individuals in the choice situation. And if every individual in the choice situation plays their best response, then that is a natural equilibrium. And in this example, the best response for both individuals either way is to defect. And on the other hand, Pareto optimality is such that if all individuals in a society prefer one outcome over the other, then Pareto optimality calls for selecting that mutually preferred outcome over the other. And in this example here, it is the outcome where both choose to cooperate and remain silent. This tension between individual rationality and Pareto optimality is explored further in the liberal paradox devised by Amartya Sen for social choice theory. He goes about his proof by trying to conceive of 3 reasonable properties that a liberal democratic constitution should have. The first principle being the universality of citizens' preferences, such that every possible configuration of preferences is allowed and acknowledged within society. Secondly, Pareto optimality has to be upheld by the Constitution for it is a basic respect for individual sovereignty and unanimity in society. And the third principle is that of libertarian choice, such that there exists alternatives such that if individual prefers one alternative over the other, then society must prefer that individual over the other as well. And Sun proves that conceived as such, a contradiction between these three principles is inevitable. However, as opposed to reading this contradiction between individual choice, libertarian choice, with Pareto optimality as a result of the shortcomings of individual rationality, he reads it as a warning against wholehearted endorsement of Pareto optimality as a non-negotiable, desirable collective choice criterion. To adjudicate this tension between individual rationality and Pareto optimality, reflected in the prisoner's dilemma and the liberal paradox, it is essential to glimpse at the conceptual history from which Pareto optimality emerged as a desirable collective choice criterion to begin with, as well as the history of rational choice theory, the framework with which the prisoner's dilemma and the liberal paradox is formulated. Wilfredo Pareto was an engineer in the 1900s, writing in response to the Lagrangian general equilibrium theory devised by Léon Vara, which depended on a price mechanism denominated by a numeraire to unite the excess demands and excess supplies that is present in a political economy, in a free economy. This appeal to prices or numeraire to adjudicate the right amounts of supply and demand in society was dissatisfying for Pareto, for it glimpsed over the individual aspect of collective choice, and as such he presents an alternative conception of general equilibrium theory, relying solely on ordinal individual preferences, and as a result sidesteps demand for cardinality of a numeraire to coordinate behavior in a collective situation, and this conflated the results of free economy and the results of other collective choice situations, in the sense that theorists took general equilibrium theory as representative of all collective choice situations, and as such the prisoner's dilemma produces this contradiction between individual rationality and Pareto optimality. And to explore this suspicion, I modify the prisoner's dilemma with a compensation mechanism such that individuals are allowed to transfer a portion of their payoffs from playing the game to the other, conditional on the other's choice to unilaterally cooperate. And as a result, I discovered that there is a distribution of individual payoffs such that the Pareto optimal outcome and the natural equilibrium coincides on mutual cooperation, given this modified prisoner's dilemma. And as can be seen in the table here, in the form here, if the compensation that I offers J makes the unilateral choice of J to cooperate more preferable than the choice to unilaterally defect, then it is rational for J to unilaterally cooperate. And just in the same way as if these values are established, then it is also rational for I to compensate J to cooperate. And this holds whether individual I chooses to cooperate or to defect. And this formulation of the prisoner's dilemma and the compensation mechanism are attached to it engages not only the notions of efficiency and compensation, which underlies other economic theories and concepts such as the Kaldor-Hicks compensation principle and Coase theorem. It also engages two other aspects of economic theory, such as the recognition of Pareto optimality, not as one regarding simply the allocation of resources, but also and the mutual preference, but also as one of the proper delineations of choice domains, private choice domains in society. Another point that this research broaches is the role of numerical representation in understanding rational choice and outcomes in rational choice, to that of the role of prices in an economy to achieve supply and demand correspondence with each other. And as such, I trust that my contributions with this research will be significant in that it connects these various aspects of economic theorizing and this modified prisoner's dilemma, such that given a distribution of individual payoffs in the game, and if individuals are permitted to transfer a portion of their gains to the others, conditional on the other's choice to cooperate, then parental optimality and natural equilibrium can coincide on mutual cooperation. Thank you.